Power of Thoughts, Chapter 5. Thoughts have no power in themselves. They merely act as carriers or channels of power. All power belongs to God. There is no other power. The universe derives all kinds of powers from the source of divinity. The divine power is infinite, all-engulfing, all-pervading, and self-effulgent. It is projected and manifested in the universe in various reflections. Every particle of the cosmos possesses this heritage of divine power in full and profound measure. Thick and colored curtains inhibit and diminish the power of light. Similarly, the intensity of thought power is diminished when it passes through a colored or polluted mind. Divine power is dissipated in the process of external flow through mind's diversification. This means when sensitive thought vibrations pass through the various channels of the mind, viz., lust, ego, anger, greed, attachment, etc., they get frittered and weakened, thereby losing their intensity and power. The subtle soul vibrations are originally pure and sublime, but during their outward transition, they are subjected to our mental condition and thereby get influenced, polluted, and weakened. Limitation of power is thus mainly due to our depraved ideas and conceptions, which modify, depreciate, diminish, restrain, and obstruct the flow of the infinite divine power. The supply of divine power into our mind is contingent to and limited by the condition of our belief and faith in divinity. Faithlessness of our materialistic mind is an obstruction to the inflow of divine power, i.e., misguided and ill-conceived thinking limits the flow of divine power into our mind and body. Realization of God's gift of infinite power is directly proportional to the intensity of our belief and faith in His divine power, and only in that proportion we partake and enjoy the profound benefit and bliss of His infinite divine power, inherent in our souls. Consequently, we also limit the outflow of divine power, bliss, and love through our mind channel for the benefit of mankind. In fact, when thoughts and conceptions are sublimated in our consciousness, we become in tune with the universal will, and the infinite divine power begins to flow through us to the universe, and we become channels of the profound divine power. Since the onus of all experiences on the physical and cosmic planes lies in our own thinking, conceptions, beliefs, and faith, intuitional spiritual discrimination is very important and essential. The spiritual discriminating power can be acquired only in the company of illuminated souls, i.e., through divine vibrations emanating from such souls. Extremely sensitive spiritual vibrations originate and emanate from divinity, which are pure and dynamic. But as they transit through our polluted minds, their power and purity is diminished in the process of externalization. Hence, the more our thoughts are scattered, contaminated, and depraved, the weaker they become. On the other hand, the more our thoughts are purified, sublimated, and spiritualized by the concentration and meditation, the more they retain their original, inherent spiritual dynamism. Every thought that passes through our mind leaves an indelible trace amongst the millions of cells in our brain. So whatever we do, makes it easier for us to do the same thing over again. This is because electric currents record all that happens to us by creating pathways or impressions among the cells of our brain. The more frequently the same thoughts and actions are repeated, the deeper and more pronounced the impressions become. These impressions are unconsciously and constantly accumulating in our mental computer, and they affect and shape our ideas, conceptions, beliefs, and faith. Their sum total is manifested in our behavior, habits, character, and personality. 90% of our personality is made up of and represents our inner mental, emotional, and spiritual qualities. Only 10% of it can be attributed to the outer environment. These influences are acquired through our mental inclinations and experiences, both during the present and past many lives. Every smallest stroke of virtue or vice leaves behind an ever so little scar on our mind, good or bad, never to be undone. This scar or influence is so powerfully embedded in the subconscious mind that it is wholly carried forward through lives, birth after birth, and shapes man's destiny to prove the karmic law of as you sow, so shall you reap. The drunkard excuses himself for every fresh dereliction by saying, "I won't count it this time." Well, he may not count it, but it is being counted nonetheless in his mental computer, deep down in the nerve cells, fibers, molecules, and electrons in his subtle consciousness, thus registering and storing it up in its subtle folds to be used against him when the next temptation arises in his mind. Man is incessantly weaving a good or bad cone around himself by his own thoughts and actions, like a silkworm, thus shaping his own fate and destiny. Thoughts have tremendous power, which can be developed to an unlimited degree by repetition, contemplation, concentration, and meditation. Lower, depraved thoughts should be forgotten or brushed aside at once, as soon as they come, by diverting the mind to higher, nobler, and inspiring thoughts. As you sow, so shall you reap. Sow a thought, reap an idea. Sow an idea, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a fate. Sow a fate, reap a destiny. Human mind is unconsciously and incessantly weaving and shaping its own good or bad world within by its own thoughts. Similarly, every thought, good or bad, that emanates from the mind sends subtle vibrations all over the universe, which are registered in the infinite, perfect, universal computer of consciousness.